Please welcome to the stage Caroline Lee, David Long, Neil Murray, and Greg Fisher.
Okay, and now it's
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. It is great to be here with you. So we've heard a lot about technologies over the last 2 days, which of course is appropriate and fascinating too as we see the future come to life. But as Amr just said, we can't get there without the people that we know we need to fuel the future and to drive the future. And that's something that we're going to dig into here. So let's get started. So I'm Carolyn Lee. I'm the president and executive director of the Manufacturing Institute. And it's our mission to build and strengthen the workforce for manufacturing for today and tomorrow. We are a nonprofit based out of DC, working across the country, really working day in and day out to tackle one of our most difficult challenges, which is developing that and sustaining the talent pool we need to succeed. And whether that is the attraction, the training, the upskilling, the retention, and all of these topics are things that we're taking on from our various parts of the industry. And of course, very central to the theme here for Schneider Electric is that we're doing this as ecosystems. And I think there's a lot of alignment between what each of us are doing, but there's also a lot of things that we can all learn from one another. So let's go ahead and get started, because after all, it's not just about creating the pathways, it's continuously developing the skills and then developing that and building and strengthening the culture, which is going to help us engage and retain the people to make sure that our companies, our industries are thriving. So I'm thrilled to be joined by a distinguished panel of leaders who will bring their unique perspectives. I have here first, I have David Long, CEO of NECA, Neil Murray, CEO of Real Estate Management Services at JLL, and Greg Fisher, Executive Vice President of Design, Build, and Operations Management at Jacobs. So actually, Greg, I'm going to turn to you on this first question. We got to talking a little bit earlier this morning. You have a diverse array of things that you do at JLL, teams that you lead. You are looking for a wide array of talent each and every day, whether it's for operating cities or facilities management, of course, all the engineering in the back office. How are you approaching this? How are you tapping into different talent pools to make this all work?
Great question. Thanks for having me here today. We ask ourselves what really is. We're here to talk about digital, but we have to have the people business that we're in. Without the people, we're just not going to be able to, increase what our clients are looking for, and about attracting the right people, and about maintaining and retaining people as well. One would say that, and I'm sure myself included, we have what some refer to as that silver tsunami coming forth towards us. It is coming faster and faster, and it's growing. And what we've got to do is we've got to do that data transfer, that mindset transfer from those other folks that want to come learn and be retained. Even from the blue collar to the white collar, it doesn't matter. It's still the same problem when it comes to people retaining leadership. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure, as the half hour goes on here. But it's really about that leadership shadow and making sure that people want to come join your organization, whatever organization that might be. That's the secret sauce, I think, that we have to be leaning into, especially in our leadership setting that we're all in.
Exactly, a really important topic that I know we'll dig into more. Neil, what are you doing? How are you approaching different talent pools and making sure you're building that pipeline that you need?
Yeah, I just heard the term silver tsunami for the first time. I'm obviously a proud member of the silver tsunami. It's an issue in our industry, a major issue where JLL employs 115,000 people around the world. 49% of our facilities workforce are 55 years of age and older. And so we have a problem with, the top of the funnel, if you will, in terms of bringing the next generation of people into the organization. We have many, like the way we approach these things are try to have pilots, multiple pilots going to attract people from different parts of society, and then try to make them more programmatic depending on the results we're seeing. So obviously tapping into military personnel, we're finding fantastic sort of transferable skills from the military services. We're using, partners like Military Talent Pipeline, like SkillBridge, helping us bring military personnel into our organization. Schools, high schools, so where we're headquartered in Chicago, we have a scholarship program with Chicago Public Schools to try and get kids to think about our industry, working closely with the unions then in terms of training programs. But like everything, and even on the last panel, we're kind of wrestling with this at scale and doing our best to solve problems every day.
Well, I think it's very, I always say students can't be what they can't see, right? We've got to bring it to life. You need to make sure that they understand. We all have different jobs that are part of our industries that would not be something you could imagine, so you've got to bring that to life all the way through. But I'll tell you, we have a veterans program as well, our Heroes Make America initiative. They don't know that they would have skills in alignment with manufacturing jobs coming out of the military, which feels really obvious to me, but it's something that has never crossed their mind. So how you really engage and bring that to life is essential, because I think everybody can't be what they can't see. So David, for you, how are you tapping into different talent pools? Where are you seeing the most energy?
Well, first I want to thank Schneider for the opportunity. Multifaceted, there's not one size that fits all. We got 300 training centers across America. Right now we have 55,000 students in those training centers. I need another 50,000. However, some of the things that we've done is we've put all our curriculum in a computer-mediated learning process. So we've been able to drive the technical skill faster. We've been able to put that in some of the high schools where they get dual enrollment, dual credit. We've been able to put it in military bases, same situation. We've opened up almost all of our training centers into a direct entry program so people can come in at any level. We're getting people in second careers. In fact, it's kind of fascinating that our median age right now of apprenticeship is 28 years old. So we're getting people at all stages. The unfortunate part for our industry is we are hands-on. So typically we are federally regulated in our training, so we got to have 8,000 hours and we got to have so many hours of training in the classroom. So those are challenges for us, but being able to basically increase the pipeline, we really started taking the social media and really ramping up the marketing more, and we've almost quadrupled the interest into our program.
That's fantastic.
And so right now, in our world, with the 500,000 field force, we have more interest than I can have placement getting jobs started, because it is a hands-on work as you go. Our biggest message is this: we're not treating this as an electrical industry, we're treating it holistically. We stood up a veterans entrance program into the electrical construction market, and we work with Manufacturing Association and others, the distribution, and stood up an internship for veterans. And that's really began, and we've got job boards.
Yep.
So veterans can go on, and now we're coming up with some real quick assessment tests that an individual could take where they fit in, logistics, manufacturing, construction, that kind of stuff.
Well, it's certainly a hot topic right now. I know many of the conversations we're in all around the country when it talks about a labor force challenge. Of course, with all the investment in data centers in particular driving the conversation about the need for electricians. So I know we'll come back to that some more in a moment. One thing, and now I can't remember, and Neil, I think you mentioned this, but Greg, I know we talked about it behind stage too. As our labor force, so we have a structural talent shortage in the U.S. We have a declining population. We're not, replacing ourselves. Our replacement rate is too low. I know this isn't a policy panel. We could talk about the need for comprehensive immigration reform in another conversation, but we need more people, but our workforce is getting older. So how are you looking at it, Greg, from your industry of making sure that you're not losing the knowledge as you have retirements, and that you're really doing that cross-generational learning?
Yeah, that transfer of knowledge is the key, right? It's about leaving. I think it's all in all of us as leaders. We have to be willing to leave our fingerprint in our industry, and about leaving that ripple effect for the younger folks, and they're thriving for that information to come in. It's that blend of knowing how to transfer that knowledge and mentorship. You always talk about the mentees and the mentors. What we're finding with a lot of our younger folks is they don't even understand what a mentor might be, and helping them find what a mentor might look like to be that, could be work, could be anything related, but to have that transfer of knowledge, to be able to say, we always talk with a lot of our folks is always say yes, right? If you want to advance in your career, how do I get to your job? Never say no. And helping them understand about that word yes, right? Yes, I'll go do that. Yes, I'll go do this. And after a while, they have that same transfer of understanding about where I got in my career. They look backwards 10 years and they go, wow, I guess that was a great ripple effect by that mentor. And I think that's really important dealing with the folks. And like I said before, it's not different in the white collar versus the blue collar. It doesn't matter what spectrum it's in. It's about wanting people to be attracted to be working with the people they like to work with,
Right.
the industry they want to be in, and know that there's an opportunity to grow. It might be different from maybe my generation that grew up. You always got in one job and you go, and you don't worry about it. What we're finding in a lot of the younger kids is they want to have the opportunity to change and do something different. They get stagnant. They want that growth. They get a little video game stagnant, right, type situation. And we have to give them that. We have to understand that. We have to give them that about that growth and make it what you want. Hence goes back to kind of the theme of this these few days is digital, right? How can we get them to lean in and take that knowledge and change it?
That's right.
Change is change, and that's good.
Yeah, I always say I'm Gen X. I'm just lucky to be here, right? I always said yes. I just did whatever was, and
Right.
and this isn't a knock on the younger generations. It's that we have to recognize the expectation, and for particularly Gen Z. And all of the parents in the room, we're the reason that this is all the case, right? They are expecting to see what is the progression, what is next. And for businesses, we have to articulate that so that they can see what the progression opportunities are, and that will excite them. But you mentioned mentorship, and it's not, and I'll come back, but I'll tee it up because it wasn't in our prep, about reverse mentorship and the opportunity that provides as well for knowledge transfer, because the digital natives have a whole different approach than us older folks. David, talk about cross-generational knowledge transfer.
Well, for the first time in history, we're working 4 generations.
Yep.
So all of us pre-1900s learned different,
Yep.
motivated different, had different expectations. I think one of the big misnomers, we talked about this privately, is this work-life balance term.
Yep.
There's no such thing. There's a life, and you work and you live in that life. So for us, let's talk about the mentorship and stuff. We have around 14,000, typically between 12 to 14,000 retire out of a 600,000 workforce. We know who they are. What's amazing is that curve has fell down to our average retirement right now is 61.6. So people are retiring younger. They've made a lot of money. They've done a lot of things. I think also the wages of our industry has elevated the industry. Also, we have a lot of clients that have gotten heavily involved and made the construction workplace very conducive, whether it's restrooms, break areas, those kind of things. So it's becoming more professionalized. It's not seen just as, in a ditch and dirt. But one of the things that we also instituted with us and working with the union, we put a return to work policy back in. So if you retire, you can come back to work so many hours a year and still draw full retirement, everything, and we got it approved by the federal government. And it has really helped us. Those men and women are coming back in, and they're more at the startup and commissioning and foreman supervisors, that kind of stuff. We hadn't saw it take traction like we had hoped, but we can see it gaining ground. And people will come back in and work, 3 months, 4 months. And those are the people that we need who can mentor, develop. And, we put them in a role where physically it's easier and more acceptable. So that has really helped us. I think also, being able to market this industry as the electrification of America that impacts all of our lives, whether you're at the hospital or the stadium or, we want to make it bigger than the data center market. Certainly that is big. But at the same time, we want people to see that this is a lifetime career that they can advance, develop, and go from, there's 56 career paths they could just go. And I think that has paid huge dividends where people are recognizing this is the 21st century college degree mentality. People are seeing that in our industry. And also, one of the things that did to help us is we took all of our training and got it college credited so people can advance if that's what they want to do to go into management or anything else. But we see like the Googles of the world come in and help us, put millions of dollars in to help us with our training, and we put all our curriculum in Spanish. That was some of the things that we did. We've tried to, look at every avenue of people, and our thing is if you start today, 5 years there's an advancement, 10 years there's advancement, 30 years there's advancement, there's a place to go.
I mean, you touched on so many things that are about lowering barriers to entry or lowering barriers to remain, right? And whether that's changing your retirement policy so people can come back part-time, right? We had the conversation yesterday about work-life balance. I've always hated that distinction as well. It makes me crazy because it infers that there's this, it's not, that's never how anything is. But at the same point in time, again, and I think COVID changed our culture a lot. COVID changed how particularly the younger generations look at work. And it's that they want to have it be within the life they want to live rather than the purpose of their life. Again, not necessarily a bad thing. So it's about how do we look at these, but it's about the progression. It's about what are the barriers? How do you continuously learn, and how do you grow in your career? So Neil, that it goes to a conversation that I know you're passionate about, which is really culture, right? The embodiment of culture. Culture comes in a lot of different ways. We heard about that yesterday afternoon here in the final fireside with NVIDIA and Schneider Electric, and talking about, for NVIDIA that I think what we heard was that part of their culture is to be the most attractive place to attract the best minds in computer science and have them have it be the place they want to do their life's work, which if that, and proof point on culture, because I think they're doing really well, as we all know. And so culture is really very much front and center, but there's different ways to bring that to life. For you, it's very much the embodiment of culture in your physical space. Want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, I've, I guess, become a bit of a student of culture. We have the privilege of working in the buildings of the biggest organizations in the world. We get to witness very distinctive cultures, like firsthand. I say to people, I'm not sure it's entirely true, that if you put me in a room with a banker or someone from a tech company and don't tell me which firm they work for, I can tell you within 15 minutes what firm they work for. Just use of language, how they think about colleagues, how they think about clients, how they think about their mission, as you just said in NVIDIA, becomes super evident and distinctive. And I would say our hosts here in Schneider, very distinctive culture that we feel, as a supplier, as a partner. There is a collective personality that comes to bear, I think championed by the long-term leadership of Jean-Pascal, carried forward by Olivier and Amer, and you see it and you feel it. And so as a custodian for however long of JLL's culture, I try to be really intentional about that, how I show up every day and the language we use. I think to your point around buildings specifically, buildings become like the single greatest manifestation of companies' culture, or at least their ambition of the culture they want to have. I see dissonance regularly between, ambitions or words on website, or we are tech forward, or we, people are our greatest asset, or these sort of tropes, when in fact, the offices don't reflect that, or the amenities, or how people are treated or talked about. And so, yeah, as leaders, I feel really strongly that a culture will always emerge in an organization. And our job is to kind of have our hand on the tiller, to be really intentional about what it is we're trying to create. In my business, in our business, we, as I said, we're invited into clients' homes. And so culture really matters as a differentiator between our firm and others. And we try to sort of bring it to life every day in the buildings we work in.
I think you key word, there's so many things you said there, but custodian really, emerged. And I think about that as all the leaders, we are the custodian of the culture. We're the owners of the culture. How are we bringing that to life? How do we prove that every day? And your space, and what does that say about, and again, we talked about this, David, you just mentioned this about the investments in the work site so that people felt like this is someplace they want me to be, they want me to do our best work. So you could touch on that and then go into, if you would, about partnerships and how important it is to bring together cross-sector partnerships and different partners to come together when it comes to workforce.
Well, we've try to make a very serious paradigm shift. Certainly the tech companies has helped drive us there, which has been a beautiful thing. At the same time, you know, decade ago, you had a tech company, they had a culture. But the construction environment didn't have that culture. So there was a very clear, we're building a project. These workers over here felt very temporary, transactional. And you've seen now that the shortage of labor has caused for the culture to be the same, no matter if you're working inside the headquarters or you're about in a greenfield building a new project. And that has really elevated the trade aspect of our industry dramatically. And we believe that's probably had the greatest single input to us bringing people into the industry that want to get into the industry. That this is, they're building the future of America, and they really own it. I don't hear the work-life balance as much anymore from the generation that's coming to us right now. They want to succeed. Certainly, there's no one in this room that has a great balance. That's why we're in this room. We're all out of balance. But I'm beginning to see that they're coming with a different mindset, and I think it's helping us with the culture because they only want to work 40 hours a week. They don't want to work 60 hours a week like we've had to do. So we've seen that paradigm shift and being able to break the work down with the partners like Schneider and other partners, breaking it down in bite-sized chunks that makes this manufacturing jobs, makes it cleaner, makes it prefabrication. Those kind of things are really going well with the generation of workers that we have. But more than that, last week I was with Schneider in Nashville looking at the new technical training they're doing. They're open book with the training, getting that training into our people sooner, faster. Because one thing to build a data center, and I don't want to hit my partners too hard here, but we have to lead quality people back with them doing a transition of these facilities. So a lot of the real serious leadership of our construction jobs are staying back, doing a transferring of CapEx to Operation X. And that's a real challenge because we have to leave certain skilled workers back for these gentlemen to take the buildings over and own them for the customers and that kind of stuff. So there's a real partnership between all of us. We know what they're looking for, and they're very transparent about it. We know what the manufacturers like Schneider are looking for, very transparent, and give us the training materials. And then we're able to go to our contractors and our members in our training centers saying, look, this is more than basically electrical construction. This is a holistic approach of the industry, and this is what we got. And it's going to get even more challenging because as integration begins to really take a hold, the emergence of mechanical and electrical trades, our training is really going to have to take a new level, which I think is more appealing to a lot of the folks we're missing out on right now because they're coming into more of an IT job than a construction job, and they see that.
You know, we run a multi-state apprenticeship program. It's for maintenance technicians. It's called FAME, and we have 45 chapters in 20 states, and what we've realized is that at the center of that, Toyota started it for their own maintenance technicians, and then it rapidly expanded, and we took it on about 6 years ago and have more than doubled the reach of it, and it continues to grow really quickly. But the best part about it is not the best-in-class global best maintenance, although that's fantastic. It's that it is training regions to come together as a partnership to grow talent pools. Because talent, it cannot be a zero-sum game. If you have all that you need, and neither of you, and neither does manufacturing, none of us succeed. So it's really how are you investing in the foundational roots of what it takes to build sustainable talent? And that's really at the heart of what is successful for cross-sector partnerships. Because if you succeed and your clients and your customers and your partners don't have it, we're not getting anywhere. Right. So it's really, we have to take a different approach than in years past, particularly as we have this sectoral and this structural talent shortage. But you know, we touched on leadership a little bit. Greg, I'm going to come to you. Retention is key. Leadership is key. There's a big gap in that right now. You have myriad different facilities that you work in, different approaches, different needs and demands. Leadership, is that a common gap across the waterfront? And how are you looking at that challenge?
Well, attrition is our key, right? We all look at that number in our business, like how much attrition are we having? I'll kind of separate our businesses a little bit between our design build, and we're mostly focused on the water and wastewater industries and the reclaimed water side. we're finding that a lot of we're stealing from one another, and that's just not sustainable in the matter of trying to attract more talent. You get the engineers coming out of the school, you get the the superintendents, you get all that total ramification of the groups wanting to engage. I think the construction side is a little bit different than the operations. I heard from some cities this morning in a meeting earlier this morning. They're having the same problems we are about the shortage of people. I think one city, it was HRSD actually, and she mentioned that she has 40 openings. I have 800 openings, and it's it's got to find a way to put together training to get people engaged, that younger generation to want to change, maybe come out of construction and do something different and do that cross training. The retention is the biggest thing that we have. Fortunately, I think we have some really good success in my group at Jacobs. We have very little attrition, and we're actually growing quite rapidly. And cities are finding that they're coming to people like us and JLL because they can't operate their own facilities. They don't have enough people. What's it come down to? I keep saying the word people because that really is the ingredient. If we're not growing our people and providing them some opportunities to grow, we're going to lose them. And I'll kind of add one more thing. We talked about that mentorship, and you said something very key there about the reverse mentorship, because in this industry, things are changing so fast that the older generation needs to be brought up to speed, maybe have that younger mentor as well. So embrace that. I think look at that. Push your folks to maybe find a mentor the other way around to teach each other, because it's getting more technology advanced from that digital side. So the retention is that leadership shadow is the one thing that I preach to my folks on a daily and a constant basis. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and look, for a younger worker, if you're a reverse mentor to an executive or to a leader, that pretty much demonstrates that they think what you have to offer is valuable, right? And that goes a long way. And it comes down to, there's money, there's title, there's opportunities. Yep. And so how you can provide those opportunities for leadership, for growth, for their own development is really key to retention. Neil, I know this is something you're passionate about too.
Yeah. I think at a time when trust in corporate leaders, according to the Edelman Trust Barometer, is at an all-time low. The gap between how we're perceived as leaders and custodians of someone's life and career. Some pretty scary numbers came out last January. We're waiting to see what happens in the January Trust Index. But and at a time when, there's been a decline of participation in organized religion, in organized clubs, in the traditional communities that we build. People are more isolated, and therefore work becomes a much more important part of people's lives, much more important part of their identity. And therefore, as leaders, we have to be so cognizant of that and think about, I love hearing you talk about people and values. Like values, to me, we can be guilty of putting values on a website and then assume that that's actually what we value. I mean, you want to know what a company values, truly values? Ask an employee what gets you noticed, what gets you recognized, what gets you thanked, what gets you promoted, what gets you fired. Like that, those are the things that demonstrate what a company truly values, not what's on the website. And so I think from a leadership perspective, we have to think about demonstrating the things that we really value by recognizing it, incentivizing it, and by gratitude. We have the same issue. Even when we get people into our organization, voluntary attrition is always highest in the first year. Getting people to feel at home and understand and aligned with their personal values in some way is super important.
Yeah, and talking about that up front, hopefully close that 100%. Gap so people know what is it that they're coming into. It can't just be the sign on the wall. It has to be safety, and it can't just, when you were talking about values, I was thinking about safety, right? In a manufacturing environment, in your environment, certainly safety first. We have to talk about that up front. Because that's table stakes. And so even though it is table stakes, you have to articulate that it is important so that they know you want them to go home the way that they came in during the day. it's a very central corridor of being, and we need to be more upfront about talking about our values and our culture than ever before. Do you have other thoughts, David, on that?
We talking about the leadership aspect. We started being very intentional about teaching soft skills and leadership in our curriculum. That would have never happened pre-2010. It would not have happened. We realized that we have to be very intentional day one, helping someone develop their leadership skills, meet them where they're at. And if we can do it across the board, then we kind of have a consistent. One of the other things, and I'm glad Neil brought it up, and we had to be very intentional about it, in our industry, mental health is a major issue. And that goes back to values, culture, the people we're getting. When you look at the demographics of suicides, our industry is one of the highest, if not the highest most of the time. Example, in construction alone, we lose 5.1 to 1 job site fatality to suicide. Think about those numbers.
Wow.
And so we've been very intentional about trying to create the community pool of people, whether it's on a job site or in the trailer or whatever it is, to try to connect people, because that's where you really find out, do they really feel valued? Do they really feel like they're a part of the team? Those kind of things. So there's some lessons to learn for all of us, but I would encourage everyone here in the audience, no matter what organization you're in, do not underestimate mental health in your organization, because it may not be that employee or that constituent, but it may be somebody in their home, or somebody in their club, or somebody at their church. It affects everyone. But I think the main thing for us right now is we want to train and develop a better journey level worker who has a greater impact on the people around them, and be very intentional about that. It's one thing to have technical skills, but in today's environment, the soft skill leadership, partnership, mentorship, all those things have to be ingrained day one.
And that's really central, and that's part of our conversation when I get these calls saying, is AI, is technology going to take over? Are we going to have no more, workers in manufacturing? No, of course that's not the case. We're going to work differently. Our tasks will be different. They will probably be more enjoyable, and leaning into what humans can bring versus what the technology will bring, but people will be very much at the center. So as we're coming down to our final minutes here, let's do one call to action from each of you that you want to share with leaders across the industries that are represented here. If there's one call to action to strengthen the workforce, what would it be? Well, speed round. Greg, I'll start with you.
I think it's about that leadership shadow. I think it's about getting people to want to lean in. I'll lean on what Neil said a second ago. It's about challenging yourself as your own leader. Are you the leader that people want to follow you into the fire and come out the other side? And I think it's really important that we look at ourselves in the mirror at night and say, how can we be better tomorrow to make sure people are going to want to show up just like you are? So I think it's about challenging yourself as well as your people, and I think that's the true mix of leadership and how to get people attracted to any organization that might come in.
Neil?
I've got a very specific ask. I'm on a mission to banish the use of the word headcount in organizations. I grew up in Ireland, and where I come from, headcount was a term used for cattle and sheep. And we talk about, there is disruption coming. I happen to be very positive about AI and how it will augment performance, but things will change a little and change for people. And I see in some earnings releases CEOs wearing like a badge of honor the notion of headcount reductions. And that's not what this is about. This is about something very different. I think we can create together a brighter and better future, better quality jobs for people, for human beings. So I haven't made much progress on this mission, but I would like you all to join me in stopping using the word headcount in your businesses, please.
Right.
It's a time to be more human than ever.
Yes, very, very good point. David?
Well, I think we have an easy message in my world that AI is not going to take our jobs. I use this phrase, it takes a lot of a wire to be wireless.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of data centers to be AI.
That's a good banner right there.
And we're in great shape.
Yep.
And so using that message, and that this is not a 5-year run, this is a lifetime partnership with a worker and their family. I think also the one thing that we've learned in our world is the best recruiter is to get some of the best employees
That's right.
and partners of that age group that you're trying to attract and say what brought you here and what will resonate with your constituents.
That's right.
Instagram, whatever, TikTok, you got to be very intentional, and none of us know how to do that, but they know how to gather
Right.
people up on a Saturday at a ball game, right?
Yeah.
So they know how to do this, and I think be very intentional about that. I think also the one thing that we've also learned, even with this computer-mediated learning, and that's a great thing, it still is a hand-to-hand
That's right.
job, relationship, development process. People build great people,
That's right.
and empower the people that are good at it and let them go.
There you go. I think we can leave that. I know we're ticking down. So really a lot of really salient points for all of you. Thank you for your leadership. I will say Neil, you want to ban the word headcount and get us out of that. I want people to remember that when it comes to workforce development, it can't be an afterthought. It can't be, I'll get to it. There's something else that's more pressing. There is no on and off switch. There is not, no matter how much wire they requires, there's no on and off switch here, and it does require an all of the above solution, and by working together in ecosystems, and I know that's something Schneider Electric is really passionate about, so thank you for bringing this ecosystem together. Please join me in thanking the panel, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.